The restroom door swings open, and I step inside, my shoes clicking against the tiles in a deliberate rhythm. My heart is pounding like a drum, but my face is calm, a mask I've learned to wear well over the years. I check my phone, pretending to scroll, but my ears are on high alert. Every rustle, every shuffle, every word spoken behind those stalls is a clue. I'm not here by chance. I followed her. I followed them. My wife, Lisa, the woman I vowed to love and protect for the rest of my life. And her boss, Richard, a man who's been at the center of my growing suspicions for months now. Late-night meetings, unexplained trips, and the faint whiff of cologne on her blouse that didn't belong to me. It was all too perfect, too convenient. And now, here I am, standing in the restroom of a swanky downtown restaurant, their private little sanctuary. The voices are faint, but I can make them out. A playful laugh, the sound of shuffling feet. I clench my fists, rage bubbling beneath the surface. My gut twists with every word they exchange, each one another nail in the coffin of my marriage. I glance at the mirror above the sink, catching my reflection. My face is calm, but my eyes burn with fury. This is not the man I used to be. This is not the man I wanted to become. Yet here I am, betrayed, humiliated, and holding onto my last shred of dignity. I won't let this break me. Not now. Not ever. My phone is already recording, the camera discreetly angled to capture the scene. Evidence. That's what I need. Cold, hard evidence. Not just for my peace of mind, but for what comes next. This isn't just about confronting them. This is about justice, retribution, revenge. Their voices grow louder, and I step closer, my shoes barely making a sound now. I hold my breath, straining to hear. "Do you think anyone will find out?" she whispers, her tone filled with a mix of excitement and fear. Richard chuckles, low and confident. "Not a chance. He's clueless. Besides, who'd believe him over us?" The arrogance in his voice is like fuel to the fire inside me. Clueless? I've been many things, but clueless isn't one of them. They've underestimated me, and that will be their undoing. I glance around, ensuring the restroom is still empty. The camera catches the light for a moment, and I quickly lower it. My heart races, but I force myself to stay calm. I need to be smart, strategic. This moment isn't just about catching them. It's about setting the stage for what comes next. The stall door creaks open slightly, and I freeze. Richard steps out first, smoothing his tie, a smug grin plastered across his face. Lisa follows, her lipstick smudged, her hair slightly out of place. She looks up, and our eyes meet in the mirror. Her smile falters. For a split second, the color drains from her face. She knows. She knows I've caught her. "Hey, sweetheart," I say, my voice steady and calm. "Didn't expect to see you here." She stammers something, but I don't catch it. My focus is on Richard, who looks like he's trying to decide whether to run or bluff his way out. He doesn't know me like Lisa does. He doesn't know I've already won. This is just the beginning. I lean casually against the sink, keeping my eyes fixed on them through the mirror. My wife's face is a portrait of panic, her mouth opening and closing as if searching for the right words to say. Richard, on the other hand, has composed himself, straightening his suit jacket and smirking like the arrogant snake he is. "Sweetheart," Lisa finally manages, her voice trembling. "What are you doing here?" I let the question hang in the air for a moment, savoring her discomfort. Then I shrug, pulling my phone from my pocket and holding it up casually. "Just grabbing some video for the memories. You know, this place is fancy. Didn't want to forget it." Her eyes dart to the phone, panic flickering across her face. Richard, still trying to keep his cool, takes a step forward. "Look, buddy, there's obviously been a misunderstanding. We were just—" I cut him off with a sharp laugh. "A misunderstanding? Is that what we're calling it now?" Lisa reaches out, as if she can somehow smooth this over with a touch. "Jake, please, save it." I snap, stepping back to avoid her hand. The fury I've been holding back is starting to leak through the cracks in my composure, but I rein it in. "Not yet. This has to be perfect." "Let me guess," I say, turning to Richard now. "Another late-night brainstorming session?" "A little," Team building exercise in the restroom? You must be the best boss in the world. Richard's smirk falters, but he tries to recover, crossing his arms and narrowing his eyes at me. You're overreacting. There's nothing inappropriate going on here. I shake my head, a bitter smile tugging at my lips. Oh, I think there's plenty going on. And don't worry, I've got it all right here. I wave my phone, its blinking red light unmistakable. Video doesn't lie, after all. Lisa gasps, her hands flying to her mouth. You were recording? I tilt my head, feigning surprise. Of course. Evidence is important, isn't it? Especially when dealing with misunderstandings. Richard takes another step forward, his bravado cracking. You can't just film people without their consent. That's illegal. Not when it's in a public space, Richie, I reply, my tone dripping with sarcasm. And certainly not when it involves catching my wife and her boss in the middle of something questionable. Lisa tries again, her voice pleading now. Jake, we need to talk. Just the two of us. Please. I raise an eyebrow, slipping my phone back into my pocket. Oh, don't worry. We'll talk. But not here. I wouldn't want to ruin your special moment. She flinches as if I've slapped her, and for a brief moment, I feel a pang of something almost like regret. But then I remember the months of lies, the late nights, the lingering cologne that wasn't mine. That pang vanishes in an instant. I'll see you at home, I say, my voice cold and final. Without waiting for a response, I turn and walk out, the sound of my footsteps echoing against the tiles. As I step into the cool night air, I take a deep breath, letting it fill my lungs. My hands are shaking, but it's not fear. It's adrenaline. The first move has been made, and the game is just beginning. They don't know it yet, but I'm already 5 steps ahead. The drive home feels surreal, the city lights blurring as I grip the steering wheel. My mind races, replaying every second of what just happened. Lisa's face, pale with guilt. Richard's smug facade cracking like thin ice. The scene loops in my head, but with every replay, my anger sharpens into something colder, something calculated. By the time I pull into the driveway, the adrenaline has ebbed, leaving a hollow ache in its wake. This house, once my sanctuary, feels like a stranger's place now. The memories it holds, the laughter, the shared dreams, they seem tainted. But I don't have time to wallow in sentiment. Not yet. There's work to do. I head straight to my office, locking the door behind me. The phone is the first thing I deal with, transferring the video to a secure folder on my computer. I watch the footage once, ensuring it's clear and damning. Lisa's voice, Richard's arrogance. It's all there, undeniable and unforgivable. This isn't just evidence. It's leverage. Opening a second file, I pull up the spreadsheet I've been quietly building for weeks. Every odd charge on our joint account, every unexplained absence, every little inconsistency in her stories. It's all documented here. The picture it paints is damning. She's been lying for months, and tonight was just the confirmation I needed. The irony isn't lost on me. Lisa always said I was too organized, too meticulous. You keep everything like it's evidence in a trial, she used to joke. If only she knew how right she was. I glance at the clock. It's late, but I know Lisa will come home soon. She'll want to talk, to explain. She'll try to spin this, make excuses, maybe even turn the blame on me. But she doesn't realize she's already lost. I've seen through her, and now I'm holding all the cards. Still, I need a plan. Not just for tonight, but for what comes after. A confrontation is inevitable, but it's only the beginning. There are finances to consider, legalities to navigate, and of course, the perfect revenge to orchestrate. I'm not just going to end this marriage. I'm going to make sure Lisa and her boss regret every second of their betrayal. My phone buzzes on the desk, pulling me from my thoughts. It's a text from Lisa. Can we talk? I'm on my way home. I stare at the screen, debating whether to respond. My thumb hovers over the keyboard before I type a single word. Fine. It's all she'll get for now. I'm not interested in her excuses or her tears. Tonight, she'll learn what it means to cross me. The sound of her car pulling into the driveway sends a jolt through me. I stand, taking a deep breath to steady myself. This is it. The calm before the storm. When the door opens, everything will change. I hear her footsteps in the hallway, hesitant and slow. The door creaks open, and there she is, standing in the doorway, her face pale and drawn. She looks at me like a stranger, and for the first time, I realize that's exactly what she is. "Jake," she starts, her voice trembling. I hold up a hand to stop her. "Save it. Sit down." She hesitates, then complies, perching on the edge of the chair across from my desk. I can see the fear in her eyes, the guilt, but I don't feel sorry for her. Not anymore. "We're going to have a conversation," I say, my voice low and even. "And this time, you're going to tell me the truth." Lisa sits stiffly in the chair, her hands clenched in her lap. She opens her mouth to speak, but I hold up a finger, cutting her off before she can even start. I'm not here for excuses or half-truths. Tonight, I'm in control, and she knows it. "You're going to answer my questions," I say, leaning forward, my tone ice-cold. "And you're going to tell me the truth. No lies, no deflections. Do you understand?" Her lips part, trembling slightly, but she nods. I can see the conflict in her eyes, fear mixed with defiance. She's weighing her options, probably trying to decide how much she can admit without incriminating herself further. She doesn't realize it yet, but there's no way out for her. "Good," I continue. "Let's start with tonight. What were you doing with Richard in that restroom?" Her eyes dart to the side, avoiding my gaze. "It's not what it looked like," she murmurs. I laugh, a short, bitter sound that fills the room. "Not what it looked like. So you weren't in there with him, whispering and laughing? You weren't sneaking around like two teenagers caught in the act?" She flinches at my words, her shoulders slumping. "We were just talking," she insists weakly. "That's all." "Talking," I repeat, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "In a locked restroom. At a restaurant you never told me you were going to. Do you think I'm an idiot, Lisa?" Her eyes snap back to mine, and for a moment, I see a flicker of anger. "You don't understand." "No." I cut her off, my voice rising. "You don't understand. I've been watching you, Lisa, for months. The late nights, the unexplained absences, the sudden changes in your behavior. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Did you think I wouldn't figure it out?" She pales, the color draining from her face as my words hit her like a hammer. "Jake, I swear." I pull my phone from my pocket and place it on the desk between us. The screen lights up, showing the video from the restroom. "Don't bother swearing," I say. "I have all the proof I need." Her eyes widen as she stares at the screen, her hands flying to her mouth. "You were recording?" "Yes," I say flatly. "And it's not just tonight. I've been keeping records of everything. Every lie, every secret, every time you thought you were getting away with it. It's all here." Tears well up in her eyes, spilling down her cheeks. "Jake, please." "I'm sorry." "Sorry?" I echo, my voice hard. "You're sorry because you got caught. You're sorry because now you have to face the consequences." She shakes her head, her words tumbling out in a desperate rush. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I never meant to hurt you." I slam my hand on the desk, making her jump. "But you did. You made a choice, Lisa. You betrayed me. You lied to me. And for what? For him? A man who wouldn't think twice about throwing you under the bus to save his own skin?" She sobs, burying her face in her hands. "I don't feel pity. Not yet. Not when the wounds are still so fresh. This isn't just about us anymore," I say, my voice lowering but no less intense. "You've humiliated me, disrespected everything we built together. And you're going to pay for it. Both of you." Her head snaps up, her tear-streaked face filled with panic. "What do you mean?" I lean back in my chair, the faintest hint of a smile tugging at my lips. "You'll see. But for now, I think we're done here." She stares at me, her mouth opening to protest, but I stand, cutting her off. "You can sleep in the guest room tonight. I don't want you anywhere near me." Without another word, I turn and leave, closing the door behind me. My heart pounds in my chest, adrenaline still coursing through my veins. This was just the beginning. The real game starts tomorrow. Part 5. The web tightens. The next morning dawns crisp and cold, sunlight spilling through the blinds in jagged beams. I barely sleep. Instead, I spend the night turning my anger into plans. Plans that will turn the tables on Lisa and her boss in ways they never imagined. By the time Lisa shuffles into the kitchen, her face pale and her hair unkempt, I've already set things in motion. I sit at the table, a steaming cup of coffee in my hands, and watch her with a detached calm. She looks at me as if trying to gauge whether I'm still angry, but I say nothing. "Good morning," she says tentatively, her voice hoarse from crying. She glances at the coffee pot, but doesn't move toward it. I can see the unease in her every movement, the tension that crackles in the air like static. "Morning," I reply, my tone neutral. I take another sip of my coffee and set the mug down with a deliberate slowness. "We need to talk." Her shoulders tense, and she sinks into the chair across from me, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Jake, I know I hurt you, and I want to fix this." Stop, I interrupt, holding up a hand. "This isn't about fixing anything. That ship sailed the moment you decided Richard was worth more than our marriage." Her mouth opens, but no words come out. I continue, my voice cold and measured. "Last night wasn't just a mistake, Lisa. It was the culmination of months of lies and deceit. Do you even know how much you've hurt me? Or are you too busy feeling sorry for yourself?" Tears spring to her eyes again, but I don't soften. I can't. Not yet. "I'm sorry," she whispers. "I never meant for it to go this far." "That doesn't change what you did," I snap. "And it doesn't change what happens next." She blinks, confusion flickering across her face. "What do you mean?" I stand, pacing to the window and looking out at the street. "You and Richard thought you were so clever, sneaking around, covering your tracks. But you underestimated me. And now, you're going to see just how big of a mistake that was." "Jake, please," she pleads, her voice trembling. "I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." I turn back to her, my expression hard. "You're right about one thing. You will do whatever it takes, because you won't have a choice." She stares at me, her face a mix of fear and desperation. "What are you going to do?" "I've already started," I say, crossing my arms. "First, I've secured all our finances. You won't be draining our accounts to cover up for your mistakes. Second, I've made copies of every piece of evidence I have, texts, receipts, and the video from last night. That's all going to the lawyer I hired this morning." Her eyes widen, and she shakes her head. "Jake, no. You don't have to do this. We can work through this." "Work through this?" I laugh bitterly. "You think there's anything left to work through? You destroyed us, Lisa. And now, you and your boss are going to face the consequences." Tears spill down her cheeks, and she reaches out as if to touch me. "Jake, please, don't," I say sharply, stepping back. "You made your choices, Lisa. Now I'm making mine." I leave her there, crumpled in her chair, as I grab my jacket and head for the door. The cool morning air hits me like a slap, but it's invigorating. For the first time in months, I feel in control. I feel free. As I drive away, I allow myself a small smile. This is just the beginning. Richard has no idea what's coming for him, and Lisa, well, she'll soon learn the price of betrayal. The drive to my lawyer's office is quiet, the steady hum of the engine the only sound as I rehearse my next moves in my mind. By the time I pull into the parking lot, I'm resolved. Every piece of this puzzle has to fall into place perfectly. There's no room for error, not if I want this to end the way I've envisioned. My lawyer, Martin Green, is a sharp, no-nonsense type. The kind of guy you call when you need someone who can cut through the noise and get results. He greets me with a firm handshake, his piercing eyes studying me as I take a seat across from his desk. "You're ready to proceed?" he asks, cutting straight to the point. I nod, pulling out the flash drive from my pocket and sliding it across the desk. "Everything you need is on there. Texts, receipts, video evidence. I want to file for divorce immediately, with an emphasis on infidelity." Martin picks up the drive, turning it over in his hand before setting it aside. "We can make this as painful or as clean as you want it to be," he says, leaning back in his chair. "What's your goal here? Custody? Financial leverage? Or are you looking for revenge?" I pause, considering his words carefully. I want it all. Custody, financial protection, and yes, a little revenge. He nods, a faint smile playing on his lips. I can work with that. Let's start with the basics: asset protection, custody arrangements, and a formal notice to her attorney. Once that's in motion, we can strategize on the personal side of things. As we go over the details, I feel a sense of satisfaction growing. For months, I felt powerless, watching as Lisa slipped further away from me. But now, I'm taking back control. By the time I leave Martin's office, I'm armed with a clear plan and the confidence to see it through. Back in my car, I check my phone. A string of missed calls and texts from Lisa fills the screen, each one more frantic than the last. Jake, please, let's talk. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. You can't just walk away from us. I delete the messages without reading further. Talking to her won't change anything. The wheels are already in motion. The next stop on my list is Richard's office. I park across the street and watch the building, my mind racing through the scenarios. Confronting him directly isn't the plan. Not yet. This has to be surgical, precise. A public takedown would be too easy. No, I need to hit him where it hurts the most. Pulling out my phone, I draft an anonymous email. It's addressed to his company's board of directors and the human resources department. Attached are the damning texts and video footage, along with a concise message. Your vice president of sales has been engaging in a highly inappropriate relationship with a subordinate, in direct violation of company policy. Please investigate immediately. I hesitate for only a moment before hitting send. The email shoots off into the digital void, carrying with it the first blow in what will be a long, calculated battle. As I drive away, a surge of adrenaline courses through me. It's a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Richard and Lisa thought they were untouchable, that they could betray me without consequence. But they're about to learn just how wrong they were. Back at home, the house feels quiet, almost eerily so. Lisa isn't in the kitchen or the living room. For a moment, I wonder if she's left, but then I hear the faint sound of muffled sobs coming from the guest room. I pause outside the door, my hand hovering over the knob. Part of me wants to go in, to confront her again, to demand answers to the questions still swirling in my mind. But I don't. Instead, I walk away, leaving her to face the weight of her guilt alone. There's still more work to be done, and I can't afford to lose focus now. The day crawls by as I wait for the first domino to fall. Richard's corporate world is about to explode, and I can't help but savor the thought. I spend the afternoon reviewing the preparations I've put in place: financial safeguards, divorce filings, and enough evidence to ensure Lisa's claims will crumble if she dares challenge me. By evening, the first ripple of my plan reaches me. A notification pops up on my phone, a forwarded email from Martin. Dear Mr. Green, we have received a formal complaint regarding Mr. Richard Harmon, Vice President of Sales. The HR department is commencing an immediate investigation. Your client's privacy will be protected as much as possible. Best regards, corporate legal team. I smirk, satisfaction spreading through me. Richard doesn't know it yet, but his carefully curated life is about to come crashing down. For someone who prides himself on control and dominance, this will hit him harder than any physical blow. As the sun sets, Lisa emerges from the guest room. Her face is pale, her eyes red-rimmed from hours of crying. She moves around the house like a ghost, avoiding my gaze, her usual confidence replaced with hesitation. Good. Let her feel the weight of what she's done. Dinner is a silent affair. I eat mechanically, my mind elsewhere. Lisa sits across from me, picking at her food, her fork scraping against the plate in a way that grates on my nerves. Finally, she sets it down with a shaky sigh. Jake, she begins, her voice soft and trembling. I know I've lost your trust. I know I've hurt you, but I want to try to make this right. I still love you. I stare at her, letting her words hang in the air. My silence makes her squirm, and for once, I relish the power shift. You love me? I ask finally, my tone flat. Is that what love looks like? Sneaking around, lying, humiliating me? Her eyes brim with fresh tears. It wasn't like that. I was confused. I laugh, a bitter sound that fills the room. Confused? About what, Lisa? Whether you were my wife or his mistress. She flinches, her tears spilling over. It wasn't like that. I made a mistake, Jake. I was weak. Weakness isn't an excuse, I snap, pushing my plate aside. You had a choice, Lisa, and you chose him. You chose to throw away everything we built for. What? A fling? It wasn't a fling, she blurts, then catches herself, her face draining of color as the words hang in the air. I narrow my eyes. So it was more than that. Her hands tremble as she reaches for her glass, knocking it over in her panic. Water spills across the table, but she doesn't move to clean it up. Jake, please. I didn't mean, don't, I interrupt, my voice sharp. You don't get to plead with me. You've already made your bed, Lisa. Now you get to lie in it. The table falls silent again, the tension so thick it's suffocating. She sits frozen, her shoulders shaking as sobs rack her frame. I push back my chair, the sound loud in the oppressive quiet. I'm done talking, I say, rising to my feet. If you have anything to say, save it for the divorce hearing. Her head snaps up, her tear-streaked face filled with panic. Jake, no. Please don't do this. Don't throw us away. I pause in the doorway, looking back at her. I'm not the one who threw us away. The words hang in the air as I walk out, leaving her alone in the wreckage of her choices. Upstairs, I sit at my desk, staring at the glowing screen of my computer. The next phase of my plan requires precision and patience. Richard may think he's untouchable, but by the time I'm done, he'll have nothing left. I lean back in my chair, a grim smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. The storm is brewing, and I'm ready to unleash it. The morning begins with an unexpected call. I'm barely out of bed when my phone vibrates across the nightstand. The screen lights up with a name I've come to despise, Richard Harmon. For a moment, I consider letting it ring, but curiosity gets the better of me. I swipe to answer, keeping my voice calm and measured. Hello? Jake, Richard says, his voice tight and strained. We need to talk. I suppress a smile, imagining the chaos that must have erupted in his world overnight. I'm not sure we have anything to discuss, Richard. Don't play coy with me, he snaps, his composure slipping. I know you're behind this. The HR investigation, the emails, it's all you, isn't it? I lean back against the kitchen counter, savoring his desperation. I have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe your own actions are finally catching up with you. There's a pause on the other end, followed by a low, frustrated growl. You think you're clever, don't you? Trying to ruin me. But let me tell you something. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I chuckle, the sound low and menacing. Neither do you, Richard, but you'll find out soon enough. Before he can respond, I end the call, the click of the line disconnecting feeling like a small victory. I know men like Richard, bullies who thrive on power and control. But the moment they lose their grip, they crumble. And Richard is crumbling faster than I expected. Over the next few hours, the fallout becomes evident. News of the investigation spreads quickly, reaching every corner of the company. Whispers of inappropriate behavior and misconduct follow Richard wherever he goes. His polished image, the one he's cultivated so carefully, is starting to crack. It doesn't take long for the first domino to fall. By midday, I receive a notification from one of the anonymous social media accounts I created for this exact purpose. A post detailing Richard's indiscretions, complete with vague but damning evidence, has started gaining traction. The comments are brutal, people speculating about his professional and personal life. I can almost picture him sitting in his office, watching his reputation spiral out of control. But I'm not done yet. That evening, I meet with Martin again to finalize the next steps of the divorce. He's impressed with the thoroughness of my documentation, nodding as he flips through the files. With this evidence, Lisa doesn't stand a chance, he says. The courts will side with you for custody, and we can ensure she doesn't walk away with a penny more than she deserves. Good, I reply, my voice cold. I want her to feel every bit of what she put me through. As I drive home, I feel a strange sense of clarity. This isn't just about punishing Lisa or Richard anymore. It's about reclaiming my life, about showing them both that I won't be broken. When I step into the house, Lisa is sitting on the couch, her phone clutched in her hands. She looks up as I enter, her eyes filled with something I can't quite place. Fear, regret, maybe even hope. But I don't stop. I walk past her, up the stairs, and into my office, closing the door behind me. I open my laptop and pull up the next piece of my plan. Richard thinks he's the only one who can play dirty, but he doesn't know who he's up against. By the time I'm done, his career, his reputation, and his comfortable little life will be nothing but ashes. As I type, a grim smile spreads across my face. The storm I started is gaining momentum, and there's no stopping it now. The following morning, I wake up to a string of messages and notifications. The first is from Martin. He's confirmed that the divorce paperwork has been filed and that Lisa will be served by the end of the week. The wheels are in motion, and the thought fills me with a grim satisfaction. The second notification is a news alert from a local business outlet. My plan has officially reached Richard's doorstep. The headline reads, "Corporate Scandal. VP of Sales under investigation for workplace misconduct." Beneath it, there's a brief summary of the allegations against Richard, citing sources within the company. No names are mentioned, but anyone with half a brain will connect the dots. I scroll through the article, noting the careful language. The investigation is still ongoing, and the company is committed to maintaining a professional work environment. It's corporate speak for, "We're cutting him loose, but we can't say it yet." Satisfied, I close the article and set my phone down. Richard's downfall is officially underway, and the timing couldn't be more perfect. Downstairs, Lisa is waiting for me. She looks haggard, her once pristine appearance replaced by dark circles under her eyes and the weight of sleepless nights. I almost feel sorry for her. Almost. "Jake," she says softly, her voice cracking. "Can we talk?" I pause, crossing my arms as I lean against the doorframe. "What is there to talk about?" She flinches at the coldness in my tone, but presses on. "I know you're angry, and I know I deserve it, but I need you to know that I still care about you." "About us?" "Us?" I scoff. "There is no us, Lisa. You made sure of that." Her eyes fill with tears, and she takes a step closer. "I was stupid. I was selfish. I let myself get swept up in something that didn't matter, and I ruined everything. But I want to fix it, Jake. I want to try." I shake my head, a bitter laugh escaping me. "You don't get it, do you? This isn't something you can just fix. You didn't just hurt me. You destroyed everything we had. And for what? A man who would throw you under the bus the moment things got tough?" Her tears spill over, but I feel no sympathy. Not anymore. "Jake, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll leave my job. I'll cut all ties with Richard. Just give me a chance." I step closer, my voice low and measured. "A chance? Like the chance you gave me when you started sneaking around? Or the chance you gave us when you lied to my face, over and over?" She opens her mouth to respond, but I hold up a hand to silence her. "Save it, Lisa. I've already made my decision. The divorce papers will be served soon. You wanted a new life? You've got it." Her face crumples, and she sinks onto the couch, her sobs filling the room. I turn away, the sound grating against the resolve I've built. This isn't the woman I married. That woman is gone, replaced by someone I can barely recognize. Upstairs, I sit at my desk, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. The final phase of my plan is ready to go. Richard thinks he's untouchable, but he's about to learn what it feels like to have everything stripped away. I pull up the email draft, carefully reviewing the attachments one last time. Photos of him and Lisa, text messages that leave no room for doubt, and a detailed timeline of his misconduct. It's all there, neatly compiled and ready to send. The recipients are strategic: his wife, key clients at his firm, and a few local reporters known for their love of scandal. I type a brief message. The truth has a way of coming out. Consider this a courtesy warning. With one final breath, I hit send. The email vanishes into the ether, carrying with it the final blow. As I sit back in my chair, a strange sense of calm washes over me. The storm is reaching its peak, and all that's left to do is watch it unfold. The fallout begins faster than I anticipated. By mid-morning, my phone buzzes with a flurry of notifications. Social media is ablaze with whispers of Richard's scandal, and the email I sent has spread like wildfire. His wife, Caroline, has already made a public move, changing her relationship status to separated and posting a cryptic yet cutting message. Some truths are too ugly to ignore. I lean back in my chair, scrolling through the chaos with a satisfied smirk. The once polished Richard Harmon is now the subject of gossip, memes, and scathing commentary. The world is watching his empire crumble, and I can't deny the thrill of seeing him suffer. A knock on the door pulls me from my thoughts. It's Lisa, standing there with her arms wrapped around herself. She looks smaller somehow, diminished by the weight of her guilt and the reality of what's happening. "Can we talk?" she asks softly. I sigh, setting my phone down. "What now?" She steps into the room hesitantly, like she's afraid of what I might say. "I heard about Richard," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "Did you?" I reply, my tone neutral. "He must be having a rough morning." Her eyes flicker with something. Guilt, maybe even regret. "Jake, did you?" "Did I what?" I interrupt, my voice cold. "Expose him? Ruin his perfect little life?" "You're damn right I did." She flinches, her composure cracking. "Jake, this is going too far. You've made your point. Please, just stop." I stand, my chair scraping against the floor as I push it back. "Stop? After everything you've done? After everything he's done? You think I owe either of you mercy?" "It's not about mercy," she pleads. "It's about moving forward, about not letting this destroy all of us." I scoff, shaking my head. "Destroy us? Lisa, there is no us. There hasn't been for a long time. And as for Richard, he deserves every bit of what's coming to him." Her tears come faster now, streaking down her face as she looks at me with desperation. "Jake, please. You're not this person. You're not cruel." I lean in closer, my voice a low growl. "You don't get to tell me who I am. Not anymore." She breaks under the weight of my words, sobbing as she sinks into the nearest chair. I turn away, unable, or unwilling, to comfort her. This is the bed she made, and now she has to lie in it. Back at my desk, I check my email again. Among the new messages is one from a journalist I contacted, thanking me for the explosive tip and promising to follow up with a story by the end of the day. Perfect. The final nail in Richard's coffin. By the afternoon, the storm has reached hurricane levels. Richard's company issues a public statement announcing his immediate suspension pending a full investigation. The corporate world is ruthless, and they won't hesitate to cut ties to protect their reputation. He's officially a pariah, his once bright future reduced to ash. I imagine him sitting in his office, or maybe at home, trying to spin his way out of this mess. But there's no escape. Not this time. He'll face the consequences of his actions, just like Lisa. As evening falls, I pour myself a drink, the amber liquid swirling in the glass as I stare out the window. The city lights twinkle in the distance, a stark contrast to the darkness I've embraced. I'm not proud of what I've done, but I don't regret it either. This isn't over yet. There are still loose ends to tie up, battles to fight. But for the first time in months, I feel like I'm winning. The next morning, I wake to another barrage of notifications. The news article about Richard's scandal is front and center. The journalist didn't hold back, painting a vivid picture of workplace misconduct, inappropriate relationships, and a crumbling career. The piece ends with speculation about whether Richard's wife will file for divorce and what this means for his professional future. I glance at the clock, noting it's early enough that the day hasn't quite begun for most. As I sip my coffee, a sharp knock at the door interrupts my moment of calm. I open it to find Lisa, her face pale and drawn. She's clutching her phone, her hands trembling slightly. "What now?" I ask, keeping my tone cold. "You've done enough, Jake," she says, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "Richard called me this morning. He's furious. He's blaming me for all of this." And I reply, unmoved. "You were part of it, Lisa. Did you think you'd come out of this unscathed?" Her jaw tightens, tears threatening to spill again. "You've destroyed him. His career, his marriage, everything. Is that what you wanted?" I lean against the wall, crossing my arms. What I wanted was a faithful wife and a partner I could trust. Since I didn't get that, I settled for justice. This isn't justice, she says, her voice rising. It's vengeance. I laugh, the sound harsh and bitter. Call it what you want. He deserved it, and so did you. She takes a shaky breath, her eyes glistening. Jake, I know I hurt you. I know I ruined everything. But this isn't you. The man I married wouldn't have gone this far. I push off the wall, closing the distance between us until I'm inches away. The man you married? He died the moment you chose Richard. Don't pretend you don't know that. Her tears spill over, and she looks away, unable to meet my gaze. I take a step back, letting her stew in her guilt. If you're looking for forgiveness, Lisa, you won't find it here. She nods slowly, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't think you'd ever forgive me. I just hoped you'd still be the man I remembered. I don't respond, instead turning away and heading back to the kitchen. She follows hesitantly, hovering near the doorway like a ghost. I pour another cup of coffee, ignoring her presence. What happens now? She asks after a long silence. I turn to face her, my expression unreadable. Now? You move out. You find your own way. And you prepare for the divorce proceedings. Her face crumples, but she nods, her shoulders slumping in defeat. I'll start packing. As she leaves the room, I feel a pang of something. Regret, sadness, maybe even pity. But I shake it off. This isn't the time for second-guessing. The path I've chosen is clear, and there's no turning back. Later, I check my email again. Another update from Martin confirms that Lisa has been officially served. He attaches a copy of the document, the bold letters, petition for dissolution of marriage. Staring back at me from the screen, it's surreal to see it in black and white, the formal end to what was once a life together. As the day progresses, I keep an eye on the fallout from Richard's scandal. His wife has officially filed for divorce, citing infidelity as the cause. The company's board has issued a statement distancing themselves from him, and rumors of his termination are already swirling. It's everything I wanted, yet I can't shake the hollow feeling that's settled in my chest. Victory tastes bitter when it's built on the ashes of what used to be. But then again, this was never about feeling good. It was about doing what needed to be done. As night falls, I sit alone in the living room, the silence pressing in around me. The storm I unleashed is still raging, but for the first time, I feel its weight. There's no turning back now, no undoing what's been done. I take a deep breath, steeling myself for what's to come. The battle isn't over yet, and I'm ready to see it through to the end. Lisa's departure happens quietly, without the drama I half expected. A few suitcases and some hastily packed boxes are loaded into her car as I watch from the kitchen window. She pauses at the door, her hand resting on the frame as if she's about to turn and say something, but she doesn't. Instead, she steps outside, closing the door softly behind her. I don't move, even when I hear her car pull away. The house feels emptier now, though it's not the absence of her presence that strikes me. It's the finality of it. For all her flaws, for all her betrayals, she was a part of my life for a decade. Now she's just a memory, and the weight of that realization is heavier than I anticipated. But I can't dwell on it. Not now. Not when there's still work to be done. The next phase of my plan requires precision. Richard may have been hit hard, but he hasn't been taken out of the game yet. Men like him always have a way of slithering back into power if given the chance. I won't let that happen. I spend the next few hours digging deeper into his life. Financial records, business dealings, personal connections, anything that could be leveraged to ensure his downfall is permanent. It's amazing what you can uncover with the right tools and a little persistence. By the time I'm done, I've compiled a file that would make any investigative journalist salivate. Among the findings is a particularly juicy detail. Richard has been skimming money from company accounts, funneling it into a shell corporation under his wife's name. It's sloppy, but effective, until now. With this information, I can ensure not only his professional demise, but also potential criminal charges. The thought sends a grim satisfaction coursing through me. I draft another email, this one addressed to the company's board of directors, their legal team, and, because I'm feeling particularly vindictive, the local authorities. Attached are the documents I uncovered, along with a brief but damning explanation of what they mean. I hit send without hesitation, watching as the email disappears into cyberspace. It's out of my hands now, but I know it's only a matter of time before the repercussions hit. Richard's web of lies is unraveling, and I'm holding the thread. The rest of the day passes in a haze. I avoid the living room, not wanting to face the empty couch where Lisa used to sit, her legs tucked under her as she read or scrolled through her phone. Instead, I focus on the future, on what comes next. That evening, as I sit in my office, my phone buzzes with a text from Martin. "You're not going to believe this. Richard Harmon just resigned. Sources say he's under criminal investigation." I stare at the message, a mixture of triumph and disbelief washing over me. It's happening faster than I expected, but I'm not complaining. Richard is finished, and the thought fills me with a sense of closure I didn't realize I needed. As the news spreads, I receive another text, this one from a number I don't recognize. The message is brief but unmistakable. "You think you've won, but this isn't over. You'll regret this." I smirk, typing a reply before blocking the number. "You've already lost, Richard. Enjoy your downfall." For the first time in weeks, I feel like I can breathe. The pieces are falling into place, and the storm I unleashed is reaching its crescendo. Lisa is gone, Richard is ruined, and I'm finally free of the weight they placed on my shoulders. But as I sit there, staring at the now dark phone screen, a thought creeps into my mind. Freedom comes at a cost, and I can't help but wonder what price I'll ultimately pay. The days blur together as the storm I set into motion rages on. News outlets pick up the story of Richard's resignation and the subsequent criminal investigation. The headlines are damning. Corporate VP resigns amid scandal. Allegations of fraud and workplace misconduct rock top firm. Social media continues to feast on the chaos, with posts speculating about his future, or lack thereof. I watch it all unfold with a mixture of satisfaction and detachment. Richard Harmon, the man who thought he was untouchable, is now nothing more than a cautionary tale. His reputation is in tatters, his career obliterated. But as much as I've achieved, the hollow feeling in my chest remains. Lisa's departure has left the house eerily quiet. The guest room, once filled with her frantic pacing and whispered phone calls, is now empty. Her absence is both a relief and a reminder of everything that's been lost. For all her faults, there was a time when I loved her, a time when I believed in us. That time feels like a lifetime ago. One evening, as I'm scrolling through the latest updates on Richard's case, my phone buzzes. It's Martin again, and his tone is more serious than usual. "Jake, we need to talk," he says. "There's been a development." "What kind of development?" I ask, my stomach tightening. "Richard's legal team is pushing back hard. They're claiming your evidence was obtained illegally and are threatening to countersue for defamation." I laugh bitterly. Of course they are. Let me guess. He's trying to paint himself as the victim now? "Pretty much," Martin replies. "It's a standard intimidation tactic, but we need to tread carefully. If this goes to court, it could get messy." I take a deep breath, trying to quell the surge of frustration. "What do you recommend?" "Stay quiet for now," he says. "Let them make the next move. We've got enough evidence to bury him if it comes to that, but it's better to let the authorities handle the legal side of things. No need to escalate unnecessarily." "Fine," I mutter. But if he thinks he can weasel his way out of this, he's in for a rude awakening. As I end the call, a part of me wonders if I've pushed too far. Richard may be a despicable man, but he's also desperate. Desperate people do dangerous things. Still, I can't let fear dictate my actions. Not now. Not after everything I've done to bring him down. The next morning, I wake to another surprise. An email from Lisa. It's the first communication I've received from her since she left, and I hesitate before opening it. Her words are carefully chosen, but the tone is unmistakable. She's trying to reconcile. "Jake, I know I've hurt you more than I can ever make up for, but I hope we can at least talk. I miss you, and I miss what we had. Please let me know if there's any way we can move forward, even if it's just as friends. Lisa." I stare at the screen. My emotions a tangled mess of anger, regret, and something I can't quite name. A part of me wants to delete the email without replying, but another part, The part that remembers the good times hesitates. Ultimately, I close the email and push it out of my mind. There's no point in responding, not when the wounds are still so fresh. Lisa made her choices, and I made mine. Whatever we had is gone, and no amount of apologies or nostalgic memories can change that. As the day wears on, I focus on moving forward. There's a strange sense of clarity that comes with hitting rock bottom. The pieces of my old life have been shattered, but that means I can rebuild them however I choose. Richard may fight, and Lisa may beg, but I'm done living for anyone but myself. The fallout isn't over yet, but for the first time, I feel like I'm on solid ground. Whatever comes next, I'm ready for it. A few days pass with no major developments. I focus on tying up loose ends, finalizing the divorce filings with Martin, securing my financial accounts, and ensuring that my life remains as protected as possible from any surprises. Lisa is silent, and though her email lingers in the back of my mind, I don't allow myself to respond. It's late one evening when the unexpected blow lands. I'm sitting in my office, scrolling through an email update from Martin regarding the divorce proceedings, when my phone buzzes with an unfamiliar number. At first, I ignore it, but when it buzzes again, something compels me to answer. "Jake," a voice says, clipped and urgent. It takes me a moment to place it. It's Caroline, Richard's now estranged wife. "What do you want?" I ask, my tone wary. "You've stirred up a hornet's nest," she says. "Richard is unraveling, and he's not taking it well." I smirk, leaning back in my chair. Good. Maybe he'll finally understand what it feels like to lose everything. "You don't get it," she snaps, her voice cutting through my satisfaction. "He's desperate, Jake, and desperate men do stupid things. He's been making calls, digging for anything he can use against you." My stomach tightens. What kind of calls? To anyone who will listen. Mutual contacts, lawyers, even some of Lisa's friends. He's trying to paint himself as the victim, saying you're orchestrating some vendetta against him. I let out a bitter laugh. Well, he's not wrong about that. "Be careful," Caroline warns. "Richard isn't just trying to save face. He's trying to destroy you." "Why are you telling me this?" I ask, my tone softer now. "You're his wife, well, soon-to-be ex-wife. Why warn me?" There's a pause, and when she speaks again, her voice is quieter, almost hesitant. "Because I've seen what he's capable of when he feels cornered, and I don't want anyone else to get hurt." The line goes dead before I can respond, leaving me with a strange mix of emotions. Part of me wants to dismiss her warning as paranoia, but another part, the part that knows Richard's arrogance and ruthlessness firsthand, takes her words seriously. The next day, I meet with Martin again, sharing Caroline's warning. He listens carefully, his expression unreadable as I recount the call. "I've seen this before," he says when I finish. "Clients like Richard, they think they're invincible until they're backed into a corner. That's when they lash out." "So what do we do?" I ask. "We keep everything airtight," he replies. "I've already filed a motion to protect your assets and privacy during the divorce. If Richard tries anything illegal, it'll only strengthen your case." His reassurance calms me, but only slightly. As I leave his office, my mind is racing with worst-case scenarios. Richard has already lost his job, his reputation, and his marriage. What else does he have to lose? And what might he do in his desperation to claw back even a shred of control? That evening, as I sit at my desk, I begin to take additional precautions. I change the locks on the house, update the passwords on all my accounts, and install a new security system. It feels like overkill, but a nagging voice in the back of my mind insists it's necessary. By the time I'm finished, it's late, and the house is eerily quiet. I sit in the dark for a long time, my thoughts swirling. Caroline's warning echoes in my mind, a reminder that the storm I started isn't over yet. Some battles are fought in the open, with clear winners and losers. But others are fought in the shadows, where the lines blur and the stakes are higher than ever. I've come too far to back down now, but for the first time, I wonder if I've underestimated just how far Richard is willing to go. The next day feels like walking on a tightrope, every step measured and deliberate. I follow my usual routine: coffee, emails, and a call with Martin to finalize some financial details, but the unease lingers. Caroline's warning plays on a loop in my head, her voice sharp and urgent. Desperate men do stupid things. It isn't until late afternoon that my unease takes shape. The doorbell rings, the sound sharp and unexpected. I glance at the screen of the security system, and my stomach knots. It's Richard. He's standing there in a suit, his tie slightly askew, his posture rigid. He looks nothing like the polished, confident man I've come to hate. Instead, he looks haggard, like someone who hasn't slept in days. But his eyes, they still burn with that familiar arrogance, a reminder of the man he believes himself to be. For a moment, I consider ignoring him, but something inside me shifts. If he's come this far, it's time to finish what we started. I open the door, stepping out onto the porch and closing it firmly behind me. Richard, I say, keeping my voice calm. What brings you here? He smirks, though it's weak and forced. Cut the pleasantries, Jake. You know exactly why I'm here. I cross my arms, leaning casually against the doorframe. Enlighten me. He steps closer, his voice low and venomous. You think you've won, don't you? You think you've destroyed me. I don't flinch, meeting his gaze head-on. Destroyed you? No, Richard. You did that all on your own. I just held up a mirror. His smirk falters, replaced by a flash of anger. You don't know who you're messing with. I could ruin you with a single phone call. I laugh, the sound sharp and cutting. Ruin me? That's rich, coming from a man who's lost his job, his reputation, and his wife. Face it, Richard. You're done. His jaw tightens, his hands curling into fists at his sides. For a moment, I wonder if he's about to take a swing at me. But instead, he leans in closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. This isn't over, Jake. You think you've won, but you've only made an enemy. And trust me, I play the long game. I straighten, my own voice cold and steady. You want to play games? Go ahead. But be careful, Richard. You've got nothing left to lose. I, on the other hand, still have everything to gain. For a moment, we stand there in tense silence, the air crackling with unspoken threats. Then, without another word, he turns and walks away, his footsteps echoing on the driveway. I watch as he climbs into his car, slamming the door before speeding off. As the sound of his engine fades, I take a deep breath, the tension slowly draining from my shoulders. The confrontation was inevitable, but it still leaves me unsettled. Richard's words echo in my mind, a reminder that some battles don't end with a single blow. Inside, I replay the encounter in my head, analyzing every word, every look. Richard may be desperate, but he's also dangerous. And while I've taken away everything he valued, he's not the type to go quietly. That night, as I lock up the house and double-check the security system, I feel the weight of the war I've started. The storm may be nearing its end, but the aftermath is just beginning. And if Richard thinks he can claw his way back into control, he'll learn the hard way that I'm not someone to be underestimated. The next morning begins with a sense of clarity. The confrontation with Richard has left me more resolute than ever. He can threaten, he can posture, but the truth is, he's a man with no cards left to play. That thought keeps me steady as I move through the day, tying up loose ends and ensuring that my defenses are ironclad. By midday, I receive the confirmation I've been waiting for. An email from Martin, brief and to the point. Jake, the final divorce hearing has been scheduled for next week. Lisa has signed the agreement. Custody, financial terms, and division of assets all remain as we discussed. Congratulations on securing a clean break. And Martin, a clean break. The words feel like a weight lifted off my chest. Lisa is officially out of my life, and everything we built, or rather, everything I built, is mine. For the first time in months, I feel a glimmer of peace. But there's still one more thing to do. That evening, I sit in my office, staring at the file I've prepared. Inside are all the details of Richard's fraudulent activities, the evidence I painstakingly compiled over weeks. It's enough to ensure that he not only loses his career but faces the kind of legal consequences he's worked so hard to avoid. I attach the file to an email address to the district attorney's office, adding a short note. To whom it may concern, Attached is evidence of financial misconduct and fraud committed by Richard Harmon. Please consider this as part of your ongoing investigation. Best regards, a concerned citizen with a single click. I send the email, watching as the message disappears into the ether. The final blow has been delivered. Richard's downfall is no longer in my hands. It's in the hands of the justice system. The house is quiet as I pour myself a drink, the amber liquid catching the dim light. I sit by the window, watching the city lights twinkle in the distance. The storm I unleashed has run its course, leaving behind a landscape that is both familiar and unrecognizable. Lisa is gone, Richard is ruined, and my life, though scarred, is finally mine again. The phone buzzes beside me, and I glance at the screen. It's a message from Caroline. He's done. The DA has enough to press charges. Thank you for standing up to him. I set the phone down, a faint smile tugging at my lips. It's not just about revenge anymore. It's about justice. Richard will face the consequences of his actions, not because of my vendetta, but because the truth has a way of catching up to everyone. As the night deepens, I feel a strange mix of emotions: relief, sadness, and a quiet determination. This journey has cost me more than I ever imagined, but it's also given me something invaluable: a fresh start. I finish my drink, the bitterness a reminder of everything I've endured. Standing, I take one last look at the empty house before heading upstairs. Tomorrow is a new day, and for the first time in a long time, I'm ready to face it. Have you ever found yourself blindsided by betrayal or pushed to your limits by someone you trusted? How would you have handled a situation like this? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. If you enjoyed this story and want to dive into more tales of suspense, justice, and revenge, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new chapter. Your support keeps these stories alive.